I was the only one who saw her standing at the corner of that house. And in that moment, I knew she wasn't human. I was 19 when this happened. I'd always been pretty skeptical about anything paranormal. That changed one afternoon at an abandoned house deep in the woods. I was with my two closest friends, Delaney and Julia. We were hanging out at Delaney's place with nothing to do, and someone suggested we drive around the back roads and explore some of the old abandoned buildings in the area. We live pretty far out in the country, surrounded by farms and woods, and there are dozens of these places scattered around. We hit 2 old tobacco barns first. We took some pictures and just walked around them. Nothing eventful. Then we were driving down one of the more isolated dirt roads when we saw an overgrown driveway disappearing into the trees. Julia said immediately that we shouldn't go down there, not because we'd been trespassing, but because something about it felt wrong to her. She couldn't explain it. She just said the place gave her a bad feeling. Delaney and I talked her into it. We were curious, and it looked like no one had been down that driveway in years. We drove in, and the driveway went much further than we expected, winding back through the dense woods. Eventually, we reached a small clearing where we parked. Through the trees ahead, we could see an old house. It was a single-story house. It had peeling paint. The porch looked like it was sagging. It looked completely abandoned. We sat in the truck for a moment, looking at it. Then, the front parking sensor started beeping. It was rapid and insistent, like something had just walked directly in front of the truck. We all looked at each other. There was nothing in front of us, just an empty clearing. Then the back sensor went off. Same urgent beeping. It was as if someone had walked from the front of the truck to the back. Delaney turned off the ignition and the beeping stopped. That was weird, she said, but she was trying to sound casual. I could tell that it creeped her out. We got out and started walking toward the house. I went first, and Delaney and Julia followed behind me about 15 feet back. I was showing off a little, acting like I wasn't bothered. The closer we got to the house, the quieter it became. No birds, no wind, just our footsteps on the overgrown grass. I was maybe 30 feet from the house when I saw her, a woman, standing at the far corner of the building, leaning slightly around the edge to look at me. She had long, dark hair, and it looked tangled and unwashed. Her dress was old, the kind you'd see in a period photograph or something. It was faded and dirty. She was too far away for me to make out her face clearly, but I could tell she was staring directly at me. Then she raised one hand, and she slowly brought one finger to her lips and shushed me. It wasn't quiet, it was loud, cutting through the silence like a hiss. Every muscle in my body locked up. I can't fully describe what I felt in that moment. It was like something fundamental inside me recognized that what I was looking at wasn't right. It wasn't human. My heart felt like it stopped mid-beat. My vision tunneled. I started crying without even realizing it. I knew with absolute certainty that she was not alive. I spun around and screamed at my friends to run. I didn't wait to see if they followed. I just ran. My phone flew out of my pocket halfway back to the truck. I heard it hit the ground behind me, and I didn't stop. Julia shouted that I dropped it, but I yelled at her to leave it. When we reached the truck, Delaney grabbed the door handle. It was locked. All of the doors were locked. She fumbled for her keys in her front pocket. They weren't there. Julia reached for her phone to call for help, and it was gone too. We stood there for maybe 3 seconds, all of us breathing hard, before the panic really set in. Our things had been deep in our pockets. There was no reason that they should have fallen out, especially not all at once. Delaney turned back and ran toward where we'd been standing. She found her keys lying in the grass along with our phones, and we scrambled into the truck. She started the truck, and we got out of there as fast as we could, kicking up dirt and gravel, not slowing down until we were back on the main road. Nobody spoke the entire drive back. When we got to Delaney's house, we finally started talking about what happened. I described what I'd seen, the woman, the dress, the way she'd shushed me. Both of them looked at me confused. "What woman?" Julia asked. They hadn't seen her, neither of them, and they didn't hear the shush either. They only ran because I'd screamed and I looked absolutely terrified. Julia said that she believed me because of the look on my face. She said she'd never seen me that scared before, and that was enough for her. But I was the only one who saw her, the only one who heard her. I still think about that sometimes, about why she only appeared to me, about what she wanted, about whether she's still standing at the corner of that house, watching for the next person to come down that driveway. And I think about our phones and Delaney's keys, about how they disappeared from our pockets at the exact moment we needed them most, like something wanted to keep us there, like something didn't want us to leave. I don't explore abandoned places anymore, and when someone tells me a place gives them bad vibes, I listen, because I know now that some feelings are warnings, and some places don't want to be left behind. We tried walking backwards. We tried going off trail. We tried everything. But the trail kept pulling us back to the same spot, like it didn't want us to leave. This happened last summer. My girlfriend Emma and I decided to do a day hike at a state park about an hour from where we live. We'd been there before, and we'd done the main trail a few times. It was an easy 3-mile loop through the woods, well marked, nothing complicated. We started around noon. The weather was perfect, and there were a few other cars in the parking lot when we arrived. About 1.5 miles in, we reached a distinctive spot. A large oak tree had fallen across the path, and someone had cut a section out to let hikers through. We walked through the gap and kept going. About 20 minutes later, we reached the fallen oak tree again. Emma stopped. Didn't we just pass this? Same cutout section, same position. It was the same tree. Emma checked her phone's GPS, and according to it, we'd hiked about 2 miles. We should have been nearing the end of the loop, not back at the 1.5 mile mark. We kept walking, paying closer attention. After about 15 minutes, I noticed something carved into a tree on the left side of the path. They were initials, J+E, inside of a heart. I'd carved that near the start of our hike. That tree should have been 2 miles behind us. Emma grabbed my arm. My GPS says we've walked 4 miles, but we're right back where we started. I checked my phone. Same thing. 4 miles. But we were standing at the tree where I'd carved our initials. Let's just turn around, Emma said. Forget the loop. Let's backtrack to the parking lot. We turned around and started walking the opposite direction. We walked about half an hour. Then we came to it again. The same oak tree, still in front of us. That's not possible, Emma said. We were walking away from it. My phone said we'd been walking for about 6 miles, but we ended up at the same tree we'd been trying to walk away from. I decided that we should just walk straight through the woods until we hit the parking lot or the road. Then we came out onto the trail again. The same trail. And there it was. The fallen oak tree again. Emma grabbed my arm. Jordan, look at the tree. There were initials carved into the trunk of the oak tree this time. Fresh carvings. J+E inside a heart, just like the ones I'd carved on the other tree. A tree that was supposed to be 1 mile away. We sat down and tried to think. Emma's phone was at 30% battery, and mine was at 40. Neither of us had any signal. Look at the sun, Emma said. I looked up through the trees. The sun was in the same position it had been an hour ago. It hadn't moved at all. We sat there for what felt like another hour. Emma's phone died. Mine dropped to 20%. The sun stayed exactly where it was. Then we heard voices. Other hikers. We stood up and called out. A couple in their 50s came around the bend. They looked surprised to see us. Are you folks all right? The man asked. We're stuck, Emma said. We kept ending up at the same spot. We can't get back to the parking lot. The woman pulled out her phone. The parking lot's just a half a mile away. Follow the trail markers. We've tried, I said. We keep ending up back here. The man looked at the tree. Then he looked at us. We just came from the parking lot. Why don't you walk back with us? We followed them along the trail. They chatted casually about the weather and other hikes. Everything felt normal. About 10 minutes later, we emerged into the parking lot. Our car was exactly where we left it. My phone said that we'd hiked 14 miles. The couple said goodbye and we got into our car. Neither of us spoke for a few minutes. "What happened back there?" Emma finally asked. I didn't have an answer. I still don't. We'd been stuck on that trail for over 3 hours, unable to find the exit. The moment we followed other people, we were out in 10 minutes. We haven't been back to that park, and whenever we go hiking now, we make sure to stay with other people, because I think that trail wanted to keep us. And if those other hikers hadn't come along when they did, I don't know if we ever would have found our way out. My landlord told me I could leave whenever I wanted, but the door wouldn't unlock until he decided it was time. I was 22 and desperately looking for an apartment. I'd just gotten a job in a new city, and I needed a place immediately. My budget was tight. Everything in my price range was either too far from work or already rented. Then I found a listing for a basement apartment. Rent was incredibly cheap, utilities included, available immediately. The ad mentioned it was a private entrance, quiet, perfect for a single person. I called the number and a man answered. His name was Richard. He said he owned the house above and he converted the basement into a rental unit. He said he could show it to me that afternoon if I was interested, so I met him at the address. Richard was probably in his 60s. He was polite and he was well-spoken. He led me around to the side of the house where there was a door that opened directly into the basement. The apartment was small, but it was clean. It had one room that functioned as a bedroom and a living room, a tiny bathroom, and a kitchenette along one wall. There were 2 small windows near the ceiling that looked out at the ground level, letting in natural light. "I'll be honest with you," Richard said. "Most people don't like basement apartments, but it's quiet down here, it's private, and the price is fair. I really needed a place, so I decided to sign the lease that day, and I moved in 2 days later." The first night was fine. I unpacked my things, I set up my bed. I felt relieved to finally have my own place. The apartment was exactly as advertised. It was quiet and it was private. The second day, I went to work. When I came home that evening, I noticed something odd. The windows showed daylight, even though it was almost 7 p.m., and the sun should have been setting. I looked closer. The view through the windows showed the side yard and bright afternoon sun, but when I went outside through the door and looked around, it was clearly evening. The sky was getting dark. I went back inside, and the windows still showed bright daylight. I figured it was some trick of the light, maybe a reflection or something. I was tired from work, and I didn't think much of it. The third day, I tried to leave for work in the morning, but the door wouldn't open. It wasn't locked. The handle turned just fine, but the door itself wouldn't budge, like someone was holding it shut from the outside. I pulled harder, and nothing. I decided to call Richard. "Oh, right," he said calmly. "Sorry, I should have mentioned. The door sticks sometimes in the morning. Give it an hour or so, and it'll open fine." "I need to leave for work now," I said. "Just call in sick. One day won't hurt. The door will open. I promise." I didn't have a choice. I called my boss and said I wasn't feeling well, and about an hour later, I tried the door again. It opened easily. That should have been my sign to leave, but I'd already paid first and last month's rent, and I couldn't afford to lose that money. On the 4th day, I tried to leave early, around 6 a.m. The door wouldn't open again. I waited until 7 a.m. It still wouldn't open. At 8 a.m., it finally opened. I asked Richard about it that evening when I saw him outside. He just smiled. "The door opens when it's ready," he said. "Don't worry about it. You're not going to be late for anything important." "How do you know when I need to leave?" I asked. "I just know," he said, and he walked back into the house. On the 5th day, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. I've been checking the time on my phone regularly, but when I looked at the clock on the wall, the one that had been in the apartment when I moved in, it showed a different time, 3 hours earlier. I looked at the windows, bright afternoon sunlight, just like the clock suggested. I grabbed my phone and I tried to leave. The door wouldn't open. I pulled and pulled. I kicked it. I threw my shoulder against it. It just wouldn't budge. I called Richard again, and he didn't answer. I sat on the bed and tried to think. Something was very wrong with this apartment. The door only seemed to open when Richard decided it should. The window showed whatever time the wall clock showed, not what time it actually was outside. I was trapped. I waited. Every hour I tried the door. It stayed locked. I called Richard 20 times. He never answered. At what my phone said was 11 p.m., the door finally opened. I didn't pack anything. I just grabbed my phone, my wallet, and my keys, and I ran out of that basement. Richard was standing in his driveway, waiting. "Leaving so soon?" he asked. "You still have weeks left on your lease." "I'm not coming back," I said. "Keep the money. I don't care." He smiled. "That's what the last tenant said too. And the one before that. They always come back eventually." I didn't respond. I just got into my car and I drove. I stayed with my friend for a week until I found a new place. I never went back. I never tried to get my deposit back. I just wanted to be as far away from that basement as possible, because I think Richard wasn't renting out an apartment. I think he was collecting people, keeping them down there in a space where time didn't work right and the door only opened when he allowed it. I was lucky. I got out after 5 days. I don't know how long the tenants before me stayed, or what happened to the ones who couldn't afford to lose their deposits and went back. But sometimes I think about that basement, about the door that wouldn't open, about Richard standing in his driveway, waiting, and I'm grateful that I ran when I did.